Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the video. In this video I wanted to talk a little bit about my thoughts and my experiences and some of my tacticologies which I developed about memorization and retention with regards to learning process. So you could be a student watching this video, or you could be a hobbyist or somebody who's just trying to learn something new. Either way, this video is for you. So my story, why am I telling you all this? So well, when I was in my school time, I was preparing for some of my entrance exams to get into a college. All right, so it happened to be one of the world's hardest entrance exams. It happened to be an engineering entrance exam in India. So this is an exam which just got the name JEE, Joint Entrance Exams, where you have to compete against 1 million students for 3,000 seats. And I was a very average student, so I went from being very average to being in the top 5% in the end of my school years. And well, I did get into a college. so I made that leap because over the years I developed a few techniques and tacticologies to learn something better. And even after the exam, even during all my 4 college years, I learned more about how to learn, and I did experiments on myself. And now I think I got something which you used to learn too. So well, I've made a few notes. There are a few things which I'm going to talk about. First is the belief systems which you need for learning something. All right. Second is the neurobiology. Then we'll talk about some tactics, and then some of my final thoughts in learning in the age of AI. So first, talking about the belief systems. A belief system that a lot of people have, this is a misconception, that you need to have the right genetics, or you need to be born to the right parents or in the right place to be really good at something. And people who are really good at something, people like Beyonce, maybe Einstein, maybe Mozart or Benjamin Franklin, these people are somehow gifted. Well, science confirms that this is all a lie. These are all excuses presented to you by your brains. We have recent science confirming that there's something known as neuroplasticity, which proves that the structure of your brain changes depending upon how you use it every single day. This is profound science, man. You are not your genetics. You become who you practice to be. Another thing which you would want to consider is there was an experiment done by a few researchers in which they created 2 groups of students. They were given the same study material to study. They were using the same study techniques, both the groups. One group was made to believe that, well, their study techniques are crap. Another group was made to believe that their study techniques are world class, they're fantastic. And in the end of the study, they found that the group which believed that their tactics were fantastic, they ended up learning and retaining the material better. So yeah, it's your belief systems. You become who you think you are. All right. So you don't wish to have those belief systems where you believe that, well, you can do it, you can learn, you cannot be the genius or the A player of your field. Well, you can be. It requires practice. It requires changing your belief systems. So do change your belief system. Well, one solution which I can provide you for changing belief systems is affirmations. Well, affirmations are among the few ways humans know how to change your belief systems. What you could do is just write something like, I'm fantastic at this subject, or I'm intelligent, or I can learn something, and just paste it on your study desk or your study table. Just repeat it every single day, and slowly over time you'll see that your belief systems will start to change. That is just one technique which you could use. Now, coming to the second part of the video, I'll talk about some of the neurobiology of learning and memorizing. I think it's safe to say that what you remember, or how well you remember, primarily depends upon 2 things. One is how many associations those neurons have inside your brain. Like, how many subjects can you relate your new knowledge with, all right? And second thing is how many times you have repeated something. What repetition does is there's a tissue known as myelin, all right? This is a fatty tissue which forms between the neurons. So the more you repeat, the connection between the neurons with this fatty tissue known as myelin, it gets stronger and stronger, and it becomes easier to recall something. Okay, so that is some basics of neurobiology for learning. Talking about a few tactics which you could use. Well, number 1 is repetition, as I just told you. So for repetition, what it could mean is there are 2 sections. One is frequently revising what you're studying. Number 2 is spacing your repetitions, all right? So what you could do is, suppose you studied something in the morning. you would want to consider repeating or at least skimming through the material in the night. Then you would wish to revise the material the next day, then a week later, then a month later, then 6 months later, then a year later. Which means you are revising it again and again and again, and you are also spacing your repetitions. So that would help you out in memorizing better. Another tool which you would wish to use is using acronyms. Acronym basically means you are trying to memorize something by associating it with what you have already remembered. An example could be, well, while I was learning to drive, I used the acronym of reverse ABC to memorize the position of the accelerator, brake, and clutch, which worked pretty well. Whenever I would get into the car, I would remind myself, okay, reverse ABC. And it made it easier for me to remember the position of the accelerator, brake, and clutch. Another tool which you would wish to use is making stories out of your content. All right, our brain loves stories. It loves to learn in terms of stories. So it would be great if you could learn how to form stories, interesting stories out of your material. Another thing would be using your 5 sense organs to memorize something, which means the more sense organs you engage while you're learning something, the easier it is to memorize it. Because more associations form. So which means, suppose you're learning engineering, and instead of just going through the theory again and again and again, it would be fantastic if you could go to an industrial site or get your hands on to a real machine, open it, deconstruct it, see what's inside, play with it, and then assemble it again. You're engaging all your sense organs like your touch, taste, smell, everything. So that is one good way to memorize. Another thing is very important actually. It is with how much intensity you learn, which means learning in intense bursts. All right, you don't wish to study in a distracted environment. You wish to study in an environment which is silent, and you wish to study when your brain is energized. All right, so because your retention depends upon with how much intensity you are studying. All right, so intensity is very important for memorization. So now I'd like to talk about some of my final thoughts on learning and memorizing in the age of AI. The other day I was listening to a TED Talk, and they were talking that in the next 15 years, most of our present day jobs will be gone. And only the jobs which include human creativity and human emotions will survive. The rest all will go. Which leads me to believe that, merely memorizing something and able to recite it, or even analyzing what you have memorized, is going to be pretty useless in the future. So what you would wish to do is learn something so well, practice it so well, that you could use it creatively, all right? So you just don't wish to be a memorization machine. But still, these tactics can be really helpful. And in the end, I'd like to encourage you to learn further. Learning how to learn is a big skill in itself. There's fantastic science coming out. There are plenty of fantastic people posting videos on YouTube on learning techniques, more memorization techniques, and how to be better at something. So I just suggest you just don't stop your learning how to learn skill here. I think it's going to be a really fantastic and important skill in the VUCA future that we all are heading towards. So I think I can conclude the video now. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.